I don't think he was very keen on us before then, or he wasn't interested, and then he saw us play and just completely changed.
Hello, and welcome to another new episode of Live Through That. I'm your host, Mike Hipple, and on this podcast, we dig a little deeper into the pivotal moments that shaped the lives of some of my favorite artists from the 80s and 90s. Today's guest is Debsey Wykes, musician, songwriter, and a founding member of the cult favorite band Dolly Mixture, once described by Mojo magazine as the godmothers of indie pop. Emerging from the UK's late 70s DIY scene, Dolly Mixture blended punk energy with sharp pop melodies and went on to influence generations of other indie artists. Last year, Debsey released a wonderful memoir, Teenage Daydream, We Are the Girls Who Play in a Band, hopefully to be released in the States before too long. And today, Debsey tells us how, a decade after Dolly Mixture broke up, a random write-up of the band led to a new band and an entirely new family.
I was about 30, 31. I didn't have a band, I didn't have a job, and I didn't have a relationship. I had a flat and I had a flatmate, and I was a bit lost, and I was decided to record some sort of probably fairly miserable songs at a friend's sort of home studio. And I just happened to be sitting in her sitting room, taking a break sort of thing, picked up one of the music papers. And this is sort of back in 1990, 1991, and that sort of time. And I noticed an article with Bob Stanley and Pete Wiggs from Saint Etienne, and it was lists of their sort of top 10 or top 5 or top 10 things. And in their top girl groups, they said Dolly Mixture. And I thought, that is extraordinary, and I don't believe anyone. I didn't know anyone knew our band, and I certainly didn't think anyone would care by then. And so I had happened to hear their sort of single "Only Love Can Break Your Heart," and sort of tried to get in touch with them because I just thought it would be brilliant to meet them and maybe do some singing and stuff. So I eventually got hold of them. Took a few months. And they'd recorded their first album by then, and they had their singer, Sarah. But when we met, they suggested I do an independent single on their label, and suggested this song. So I recorded the song with them, called "Who Do You Think You Are?" And then the Saint Etienne's label decided that would be a good song for Saint Etienne to do. So it turned into a duet with me and Sarah, the singer. And then I started playing with them live. And through the live band, I met my partner, Paul. And and we eventually got together. And in the mid-90s, we formed a band called Birdie. And we've had 2 children, and we're still together. And so, in a way, meeting Saint Etienne changed my life. Picking up that newspaper and seeing that they liked Dolly Mixture kickstart a whole new era.
Bob Stanley from Saint Etienne has also written several books on pop music. Did he have any advice for Debsey as she was writing her memoir?
Well, he was amazing, actually, because he got me in touch with the publisher, because I told him years ago that I wanted to write a book, and every time I ever met him, he'd say, "How's it going?" I said, "Well, I haven't really got very far. I don't really know, how interesting it would be. Or I haven't got I wasn't convinced I could do it for a long time." And then eventually he just texted me probably 3 or 4 years ago, I can't remember now, and said that a friend of his was setting up his own imprint, and he was going to put Bob's book about the Bee Gees out. And this guy got in touch with me and knew Dolly Mixture, and which is again amazing. If you wait long enough, people start sort of popping up, and he he sort of took over and sort of encouraging and sort of looking at my writing and saying it could be more this, it could be more that. And eventually it turned into a proper manuscript and a proper book.
The book has received tons of great reviews, and it was listed as a top 10 book by The Times and Shindig magazine. Was she surprised by the outpouring of praise over the book?
Absolutely, I'm absolutely gobsmacked. I mean, I had there's this magazine called Shindig, which have only recently found out about. But my book was like #1 music books, and I was just sort of. I must say, I did have a little warm glow in my in my chest. No, it's amazing because I just thought that people weren't that, the press. I didn't think it was going down that, or wasn't sufficiently interesting, So when and it got in the Times and things like that, and I just suddenly thought, oh, God, yeah, this is real. This is really exciting. This is what I want.
Dolly Mixture opened for the Jam in 1980, and Paul Weller was so impressed that he signed the band to his new record label, making them among the first on his roster. That must have felt like a pivotal moment.
It was actually, in terms of feeling like validation, and I guess when somebody's a bit of a hero, which Paul Weller was a bit of a hero to a lot of people, and certainly sort of was quite one for us, I mean, we all got very, very sort of keen on him, and he was like to us he was the Jam, really, because he was the songwriter and he was the one that you watched on stage, because he was just electric, as people say. So yeah, that was, I mean, because I don't think he was very keen on us before then, or he wasn't interested, and then he saw us play, and just completely changed. And his family loved us, and it was a really sort of wonderful turnaround, and we supported them quite a lot. And then he signed us to his label.
That was a sample of Dolly Mixture's song called Our Tune. It sounds so great, right? Which is why I was stuck on the idea that Paul Weller wasn't interested in the band until they opened for him.
I think the idea of us, and I think the idea of us wasn't at the time in the early 80s, or sort of turn 1980 and onward, the next couple of years. I just don't think people, they'd probably had enough of the sort of like, when we were sort of instantly in the music papers all the time, and it was all new and fresh, and then suddenly people got very cynical about us, and because we weren't sort of post-punk sort of, or dour, or we weren't making some noise and or writing about the things that people thought we should write about. Anyway, we weren't anything that anyone seemed to be interested in at the time, and I think he thought we were probably like a sort of girl group, and I don't know how keen he was on that sort of stuff. More fool him, really, but He probably likes it all now. But in fact, when he actually saw us play live, he sort of changed his mind. I think he probably just thought we would be like sort of 60s girl singers, like sort of, I don't know, maybe Leslie Gore or sort of like Leslie Gore, Sandy Shaw. Maybe he wasn't really into sort of things like the Ronettes or, you know, all those wonderful, wonderful bands and the Shirelles, etc., etc. And it probably just wasn't what interested him, because at the time, I guess he was just into. I just think he liked male music, basically, and he was so like into the Small Faces and the Beatles and God knows what. I don't know. I never really discussed it with him.
Did Dolly Mixture ever try to change their sound to be noisier or more trendy?
No, not really. No, I mean, we wouldn't sort of listen to anybody anyway, sort of thing. So we were just sort of blindly, not blindly, we just carried on, and our mission was to write a classic song, one that could be reproduced in all sorts of ways, like all the great classic songs. So that was our mission, really. Never sort of crossed our mind, or nobody ever said change direction or anything. They might say, why don't you wear that or something, but nobody ever sort of said change your direction, or if you did this sort of music it would be more successful, or nothing like that.
Would Dolly Mixture consider getting back together to record new music?
Oh no. No, it's finite, or if that's the right expression. No, it's just what it is, really. I mean, there was a song that Rachel and I played together once, just at some occasion or other, and but it's not a Dolly Mixture song, so there wouldn't be any point, really. No.
After Dolly Mixture broke up in 1984, Debsey went on to form a new band.
Yeah, so in sort of start of 1985, Hester and I decided to record or write some songs for a new type of group. We thought we'd have a sort of touring band, because we'd been three and it was very intense, and we just thought, let's have a massive touring band, all women, sort of like, have you ever seen Some Like It Hot? Oh, well, there's this all women band called Sweet Sue and her Syncopaders or something like that. And they go touring on a train. Marilyn Monroe's in the band. She's the singer. Anyway, so Hester and I had this mad idea. We can travel around by train and be like that band and have a sort of jazz sort of thing. And so we started to write that sort of song, but then getting a women's band together was incredibly hard. So this was 1985, 1986, and managed to sort of get about 6 people together. And I was teaching sort of like, at first, 2 of them to play just a few chords on the guitar and somebody else the bass. And then we moved on a bit and got people who actually could play, and got a saxophone player. And although I wanted a trumpeter, but we couldn't find a trumpet player. So we did this band, but and we were called Coming Up Roses, but it wasn't as complete a vision, really. The sort of jazz thing went a bit sort of sideways, and then people have their own input, and keeping a larger band together is quite difficult. There's not that same trio sort of feel when we're all equal. And we know each other so well.
She's so dumb, comes on so sweet. Never thought she'd last a week. You take her out, you walk her home. Darling, I'm still on my own. Could have been your girlfriend if you'd asked me to. Oh, I would have been your girlfriend.
it's a 6-track EP, and it's, it doesn't inspire me, I must say, because I don't think I really felt inspired for 4 years, really, apart from like making a couple of really brilliant friends. I think because had come off the back of another band, and I think we were probably not, we didn't have as much. I think our confidence was knocked, basically, and we were sort of aiming for something and not quite clear what we were aiming for or what our sound was and stuff. So, we had good moments. I mean, we did play a lot, and for about 3 or 4 years. So we didn't do nothing. It just wasn't I don't think it was great.
And finally, what does Debsey think the legacy of Dolly Mixture is?
I know what I always dreamt it would be, even when we were still going, which was to sort of inspire other girls, really. I mean, that wasn't the reason for the band, but we hoped that it would, and I guess I still hope that, really.
Huge thanks to Debsey for sharing her story so generously about Dolly Mixture, about independence, and about how music can find new life long after you think a chapter has closed. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out her memoir, Teenage Daydream, We Are the Girls Who Play in a Band, and seek out the music of Dolly Mixture if it's new to you, or revisit it if it isn't. And while Debsey might not be as fond of her music with Coming Up Roses, it's definitely worth seeking out as well. I'll end with a quick reminder that you can buy my book on 80s musicians and where they are today, 80s Redux, and its sequel, Live Through That, on 90s artists, wherever you buy your books. And if you like this show, I'd love it if you'd left a review wherever you're listening. It always helps others find us. And of course, subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.